one of the biggest gifts that this whole process gave me was to realize how much I was, how much stress I was putting on my body before. You know, I was very much underweight and didn't have much muscles on my body to kind of, you know, support my joints and everything. And ultimately, you know, I had to choose either I stay the size I was, or like and follow the same eating habits as I was, or I really focused in and gained muscle, gained strength, ate better, and then ultimately I can dance again. Because they gave me a goal and said, if you have to reach this amount of this kind of strength level before you can even think about doing a ballet class. So I constantly had this that motivated me, and just the education that you get throughout the rehab process definitely helped so much.
Welcome to Point to Rise, your podcast that gives you permission to dream big, take messy action, and turn your talent into profit while turning your back on perfection. My name is Susanne Puerschel, high performance and mindset coach, former international ballerina, profitable entrepreneur, and founder of Point to Rise, a movement designed to empower dancers. It is my mission to use my own story as an inspiration for today's generation of dancers. And now sit back, stretch, warm up, or sip your coffee and love learning how much it matters to point at yourself first to rise to all that you are capable of. Hi, Suzanne. Welcome to the podcast today. I'm so happy you're here.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Before we get started and dive into all the goodness, I want to start with a few icebreaker questions. You good with that? Yeah?
Yeah, perfect. I'm up for that.
All right. So currently living at and born and raised.
So I was born and raised in South Africa. Raised more in the UK because I moved there when I was 7. And now I'm currently living in Vienna in Austria.
Oh, wow.
So I've been around a little bit.
Yeah. Why did you start dancing?
Actually, my mum took me to see the Nutcracker in our small town that we were living in. And she always tells me that after the show, I begged her to let me start ballet. And I said, but Mum, I don't want to be one of the girls who are dancing all together. I want to be one of the girls, the one that's dancing on her own. And so, yeah, I kind of pushed my mum to take me to ballet classes, and it kind of snowballed from there.
I didn't know that. That's very beautiful. Yeah. I said the same thing, you know.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I love this. I love asking people how they started or what made them start. It's always so beautiful to hear.
Yeah, I agree. Your favorite food?
Pizza.
No.
and avocado. I love pizza. But I also I'm obsessed with avocados. I could have avocados every single day. And whenever I go back to South Africa, the only thing that's on my request list is usually things like these giant avocados, watermelons, papayas, all these kind of like exotic fruits. I
agree with that. I hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, what else? So what is your favorite childhood memory when you were a teen? Like something that you remember that will always stay with you?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think I have many. Probably spending Christmases at our beach house. Like, this is a very, very young childhood story. But our family used to, they still do now, but obviously I can't spend Christmases back home every year. But Christmas in the sun and just the family Christmas traditions that we always used to have, and to spend Christmas on the beach. I do feel my best when I'm on the beach with sand and the waves and everything. Yeah, they'll always be very special for me, very special memories.
I feel the same way too. Like I have to go close to the ocean. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's my place. It's my happy place.
Beautiful. One thing that you're not proud of.
Oh no.
Sorry. I'll tell you mine. I'll tell you guys mine.
Okay, yeah, tell
I
me.
have already a lot of them. Just recently, like I've come so far in understanding that the time that I have with my children right now is so important. And I don't ever wanted to, after quitting my corporate job, to return to that space where my job is more important than my children. And I recognized that I actually had done it again because it is so deep in my subconscious that I have to work and produce in order to be valued, in order to be seen, that I, again, put my work above my family needs. Something that I'm not proud of. However, I realized it this time so much quicker and was able to pivot so much quicker. Like I don't schedule my calendar full anymore. It's 4 hours a day and that's it. The rest is for them.
I think that's amazing. And I think it's these things, like none of us are perfect, but it's that switch when we can make that switch and recognize that. I think that's the most important, to be honest.
Right, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not what we do or we don't do, or what we do right and what we do wrong. It's how we learn from them and how we are able to pivot and to be okay with, I see what I did there. Not proud of it. However, it doesn't define who I'm at in my core. What defines us is how we react and how we can like change through it.
Yeah. I think when you said to try and find your worth, like you're constantly working to feel your worth, I can really relate to that because I feel like I tend to put my energies in other places where I do feel I'm worthy. And sometimes, like if I'm not having a great time at work or I'm not feeling appreciated, I have a tendency to find other ways to make myself feel appreciated. And in a way, I mean, it probably did start with kind of restricting what I'm eating because that is like a way of controlling. I think that's only a small aspect of it. And later on, I would also, I don't know, maybe in social groups have found or done things in my social life to feel appreciated rather than really focusing on why am I not putting the energy into the work. And it's not like deviating from the work. It's just, coming to terms with things more focused on where they're lacking rather than searching it for it in random other areas, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it makes to me. It is deferring your energy. So I had this conversation with my husband this morning. In a way, he's like, I can't go to sleep. I can't do this. I can't do that. And I was like, okay, but where are you putting your energy? Are you putting your energy in feeling bad about it? Or are you looking for a solution? So it is about, and maybe I'm going off a little bit, let me reel back here, that you find yourself trying to find your worth in other things versus finding that satisfaction in where you really are looking for.
Exactly. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, we can't depend on the outer stimuluses or the outer sources to make ourselves feel appreciated. Or, I mean, of course they help. I'm not going to lie. But we really have to find that inner peace within ourselves. And I think that it took me a long time to find that inner peace, and it's still a journey. But before, it was always trying to find something to maybe cover it up, or, trying to fill it, or trying to get myself at peace or feel worthy enough, I guess. I guess that's the key word, really.
Okay, so let's jump right into this, because this is such a big topic. I see, particularly in the dance industry, so top of the mountain, that there is so much unworthiness, the feeling of unworthy, the chasing, the wanting, the finding finding your worthiness from the people that are determined whether or not you get the role or the contract, that there is so much inner work that could be done to release that. And with the release of that pressure, one could create so much more. So let's go back to you. You went through school, you had your learnings, you had your struggles. I would love to hear a little bit about your journey through school, the struggle that you encountered there, and how you ended up in Vienna.
Okay, I'll try and sum it up as briefly as possible.
Oh, detail.
Well, I started at White Lodge at the Royal Ballet School, the lower school, when I was 13. And because I joined 2 years later than everyone else who would normally start with the age of 11, it was a bit of a challenge for me to kind of catch up with what they've learned in the past 2 years. You know, it would always be, oh, the new girl still needs to learn this or still isn't up to standard. So for me, it was a constant fight to be kind of recognized as equal as everyone else. And then, of course, getting past equal, you want to be the better one. You want to look the best. You want to, you know, so I really, really put my heart and soul into everything. And I was very determined to, you know, then go to the next level, which would ultimately be the upper school. So that was always the goal, being in the lower school. And of course, alongside that came questioning what I looked like physically, which also caused me to start restricting what I'm eating and always have this kind of consciousness about my body. That carried itself on into the upper school. I did thankfully get a place at the upper school. And yeah, there, alongside all the other struggles, it was, I guess, also the competition between everyone. I mean, we were never bitchy between one another, but there was always like this, yeah, I guess, this competition. And with that also came the body consciousness and seeing, oh, well, this girl is very skinny and she's getting a lot of attention or she's getting a lot of roles. And weirdly, you start over-analyzing everything so much that you start to think that to become something or to be seen as the good one or the best in the class and getting a job at the end of the day, you have to tick certain boxes. And those boxes, or the list of things to tick, are really obscure, I have to say. And it's nothing that anyone gives you. No one gives you like a list that you have to tick off, but everything is done so subconsciously. And I think it's also between us as students, we kind of cultivate this thing, you know, the chat that everyone has between one another. Also like, oh, this teacher loves this one because she this and this and this. And you immediately start to think, oh, well, I need to do that and that and that, or I need to look like that to also get that recognition. So yeah, I think there it's always this chase for being worthy of something. That's where it's all started. But yeah, I did survive school and with all its ups and downs. And I got a contract with the Vienna State Opera. And yeah, I moved here when I was 19. And the transition from school into company, I did underestimate it, I have to say. But I think that's normal for anyone transitioning from school. And yeah, I was very happy here, obviously. I've been happy here since moving here. But for me, it was the lack of feedback is a big thing, I think, from school into company. I didn't realize how much I relied on that. And that's again where this thing of feeling worthy of something, because you now suddenly you're not getting any feedback, maybe here and there. And yeah, that was a big hurdle for me to get over.
Okay. A few things. I want to go a little deeper. When we're talking about lack of feedback, because I know in school it was all about feedback. It was all about correction. And I remember there were days where I just didn't want to hear another thing about the things that I didn't do right, because I just couldn't anymore. I couldn't stomach it. And then company was the other way around. Now, do you think, A, that there could be like a middle ground, for example, and B, that learning prior to actually getting into a company on how to motivate yourself or give yourself some feedback, or find another way to get the feedback that you need in order to accelerate? And then on the other side, I feel the lack of feedback in companies is something that holds a company from excelling. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. But let's start with the school and the feedback model that we're seeing in schools, and how, we are maybe sculpting the students to depend on that without using their own brain.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I can't speak for all schools. I can't speak for, I just know from my experience and from classmates, or also people who were in years below me. My brother also went through the school, the Royal Ballet School, lower school. And yeah, I think there is a sense of fear amongst everyone, and you rely on the feedback to kind of determine your fear levels. It sounds so strange, but
No.
I noticed it as well. Like, seeing students now in the school, there's this underlining sense of fear, and even in the way their postures are, like you feel like you're being watched, and that everything is being looked at and monitored almost. And it doesn't give you much space to develop your own sense of self and your own personality. And I think when you take the fear away, it gives you so much more headspace, I guess, and also that kind of motivation, or not without having to be scared about anything. I know for me that was a very big thing. My kind of sense of artistry was definitely dampened in my first couple of years because I was just scared the whole time.
So, follow-up question, because I remember that fear too, and that was what really killed my artistry and my drive, my wanting for all these beautiful things that we want and feel and experience when we start dancing. Where am I going? What kind of fear? Like, can you label that fear? Because there are many layers of fear that you experience.
Fear of no approval, I guess. Or the fear of not, I mean, I know for us, we always had the fear of not getting a place in upper school. It was this obsession that everyone had. It was even the whole process to get the place, the whole audition process kind of felt very, very impersonal somehow. And
sorry, go ahead.
No, that's
the fear of not making it, the fear of not being enough, the fear of not being seen and worthy of going on.
Because also they kind of made us, we all had this sense that if we didn't make it into the Royal Ballet School, upper school, or the Royal Ballet Company, then we weren't really worth anything anymore. Yeah. And it's not that it was ever explicitly said. It's just this kind of underlining atmosphere somehow. And I think, like I said before, I think it's also amongst the students, they pick up on this, and it's also amongst ourselves, we're talking about it a lot. And then this keeps growing, basically. And if you think of it this way, my brother, he did 3 years at the lower school, same as I did, and he didn't get a place at the upper school. He then went to the English National Ballet School, and we're both in the same company now, working together. So it just shows that, and I think I never heard stories like this. I never knew about the possibilities that were in Europe. I never knew about the possibilities that were in America. For me, it was just tunnel vision into one direction. And for many, this is great, but I think it's very important for schools to also talk about these inspirational stories, or to talk about other places or other ways that you as a dancer can express yourself, because not everyone ultimately will get to that company or do those roles. And it's perfectly fine, because everyone will also notice that at the end of the day, not everyone wants to be Odette Odile. We all want to express ourselves, and it's not about that label.
I want to add something to that. When we thrive for something that we think is like the perfect place, we try to match that perfect, right? Like that's what I see in dance so much. It's that perfection in anything you do. And anything less than perfect is not worthy. Now, perfection is seen differently from every possible angle, from how people look at it, how, people see your body versus another body, or your periods, or you can dissect it as much as you want to. And this thriving for perfection also kills curiosity and the ability to learn, because there's only one way to perfection.
Exactly.
But when you kill curiosity and the willingness to learn, you're not producing anything that has something to do with art, in my opinion. It is just something that we follow and think wants to be seen on these upper levels at the Royal Ballet, and anything else doesn't exist. It's not perfect. And this is where I feel is where the opportunity lies, that we start teaching that failing is only the next step that you really have to encounter in order to become the success that you want to be. And you have to learn how to fail in public. Like, make schools a place where it is okay to fail. Let's replace failing actually with learning. It's you are learning. You keep learning. You're learning your entire life. And with this thrive for perfection, for like hitting that upper limit, there is no upper limit. It's on you where your upper limit is. It's your determination. But if you're putting one on there, you stop wanting to learn, because you just keep chasing something that doesn't exist, and that kills curiosity. And curiosity is like the essence of, I think, a fulfilled life.
Definitely.
And I feel also that that's in companies a big opportunity to make it, a pool of creation versus I'm telling you what to do and then do. Which brings me to my next question to you, is like the lack of feedback that we are seeing in companies now is something that perhaps has been that way for many, many decades. And I am not blaming the people. I'm not saying this is wrong. All I'm really opening up here is the perhaps the curtain a little bit to see, hey, what other ways are there? What if we would actually give more feedback to our dancers? What if we could have conversations with our dancers on how they feel and how they, what they want, etc., and opening up that divide that is between artistic director, the vault. A former artistic director of mine, the building was built in an old bank, and his office was literally in the bank's old vault.
So,
Really?
I mean, talk about separation and security.
Yeah.
Like if we were to open that up, like what could happen?
Yeah,
and I want to, like, my question is to you, like, what would that make you feel like if you actually had the possibility to have that two-way conversation going on, then the permission to learn, the permission to fall down and get back up without being judged?
Mm-hmm. Well, I have to say that, I mean, I've only been in Vienna as a company. I also can't speak from a point of view from many different companies. I'm just also things that I'm hearing from friends in other companies, but we have recently gone through a director's change and also a lot of staff changes and everything. So I can really already feel and see a difference, what it could be like, or what it is like to have a much more open conversation, like you were saying. It's only been a couple of months, so I don't have necessarily examples to share, but I do already feel that just with different personalities, or a kind of a more equalness between dancers, and I mean, there's always a hierarchy. I understand it should be like that. I think sometimes things can get a little bit messy if the hierarchies, between, I don't know, the artistic staff and the dancers, if it gets too mixed up, then it can also cause its own problems. But I think generally, just again, not to have the fear, you shouldn't be having the same fear that you have towards your teachers at school, towards your director and the staff, and I think, I just know from the past kind of couple of years, it's you kind of feel a bit lost after a performance or something where you did something maybe a bit special, or you were put more in the front, I don't know, and then not hear anything. Sometimes you would hear some feedback, and if it was negative, you would kind of magnify that negativity, because you would think that, oh, well, it's so rare that we get feedback, and if it's negative, it must have been awful, So I think then you kind of feel lost. You kind of feel like, okay, I've just made myself kind of vulnerable on stage. I've just given it all, and then to hear absolutely nothing. I think that for me was very, very hard to kind of get past. Or I will never forget after, I guess it is also kind of something that we have to, as dancers, just accept that we're not always going to get feedback. We should also make peace with that. But I think it won't hurt to put a little bit more attention on this topic. But after being off for 11 months after a knee surgery, after my first performance, to not hear anything, but to hear like feedback given, like very positive feedback to someone who just joined the company, and me standing next to them and just been like, I've just been off for one whole season. My career was almost at end. Not to hear anything like, congratulations, your first show back, or, good to have you back. It's almost as if you're thinking, I'm working for you guys. I'm just giving everything, and just no acknowledgement, nothing. That really did hurt a little bit, I have to say.
Well, yeah, because you don't feel seen, right? And to work, to give, as you said, your soul, your everything, to potentially somebody who doesn't really care about it. Mm-hmm. You can only do that for a certain amount of time. Let's go to how hitting, and I'm going to put this in quotation marks, rock bottom, or experiencing an injury can be at the same time a blessing too. Let's go a little bit into your injury, how you felt about it, how you recovered, and what was the gift in that journey?
It was a huge gift. I get goosebumps now just starting to talk about it, because It really came completely out of the blue. It was a complicated diagnosis, so I won't go into that. But when I did go to a doctor to for him to look at the scans and tell me, okay, what is it that I have to do? And he said, well, you definitely need surgery and you definitely need a minimum of 6 months. Now, up until this point, I was never injured. Like, for me to take 2 days off was crazy. And I had just spoken to a dancer who took 3 months off, and I asked him, what do you do with your life for 3 months? Poor you. Like, I felt so bad for this guy. And then to hear, minimum 6 months before you can do any form of activity was quite hard, that I cried out the whole box of tissues that was in his desk. He still reminds me of that today.
Oh, really? Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. He was like, I'll buy you a new box of tissues. But yeah, so I decided everything happened very fast, and I decided to go back to London for 1 year because, or just for the period of time of my recovery, because after surgery, I would have had to be non-weight bearing. So that meant crutches for 10 weeks. And of course, just with the language barrier, everything would have just made a lot more sense. And yeah, I was very lucky to get a surgery appointment quite fast with a surgeon that had already operated on ex-classmates of mine. It was just, I think the first 10 weeks was really a shock, because you're suddenly, from being so active every day, I was constantly either at the gym or in the studio or just, hustling the whole time, to then sitting on the couch because I physically couldn't move. And the most I could have moved was to make some tea or just move around my crutches, or to have my mum help me into the bath. For me was just, you really feel like you've hit rock bottom. Or I remember going to a small fitness studio that my physio organized for me, just so I can get into a swimming pool and start moving. But there were a lot of pensioners or elderly people who were also recovering from hip replacements or knee replacements. And I was exactly on the same physical ability as they were. And it really made me feel like, to think of dancing again felt almost impossible. And that scared me. It really scared me a lot. And, but yeah, it was a very emotional journey. And I'm very grateful that my mum was there to help me along the way. It was usually a scheduled emotional breakdown every Friday, because I used to get the work schedule for the coming week, and it still came into my email inbox. And I always made the mistake of opening it and seeing what was going on at work. And then my mum knew 2:00 Friday. That's the time. But no, I have to say I had an incredible team of physios and sports scientists who really, as soon as I was able to walk again, really helped me just to kind of focus my mind on a goal. I had, everything was planned out for me, and every week I could see progress and new challenges and new things to keep me excited about, like next week you can add this much weight. And I also learned a whole new world. Like I did weightlifting for my recovery. I was in the gym. I was really pumping iron.
Awesome.
And this was amazing. For me, it really brought this inner strength out of me. And it's something that, along with school and everything, this fear, you go so into yourself. And with this, I felt so empowered. And just the rush that I had from every week being able to progress, lifting heavier, jumping higher. I enjoyed it so much. And of course, I think one of the biggest gifts that this whole process gave me was to realize how much I was how much stress I was putting on my body before. I was very much underweight and didn't have much muscles on my body to kind of, support my joints and everything. And ultimately, I had to choose either I stay the size I was, or and follow the same eating habits as I was, or I really focused in and gained muscle, gained strength, ate better, and then ultimately I can dance again. Because they gave me a goal and said, if you have to reach this amount of this kind of strength level before you can even think about doing a ballet class. So I constantly had this that motivated me, and just the education that you get throughout the rehab process definitely helped so much. And yeah, I think without that, I don't know, I can't even imagine where I would have probably ended up.
So you had to go against the beliefs that you were taught in order to get back in the studio.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, it wasn't like in those few months, it was, I always did still have kind of have the tendency to fall back into the habits, but you have to look at the bigger picture, and I had the bigger picture there in front of me, and it just meant reminding myself, or I still go to the gym. I mean, now they're closed, I'm suffering a little bit, but still after my rehab, it really helped me to, I don't know, just have this inner strength and this power, and mentally it helped me a lot as well.
To let go, or to have time for yourself?
Both, I think. I think I needed that. I mean, now I also love doing yoga, and that's also much more of like an inner, time for yourself, I feel. But I think just that feeling like I can do this. Like if I can lift this much weight, I can do that in the studio, And I mean, I'm not encouraging anyone to spend hours in the gym. It also has its negatives for dancers, but I think if you do it right and you have the right team behind you who are guiding you and with the right program, it's so beneficial. And I think that's also a myth that's in the dance world still a little bit.
The bulky, you get bulky if you go to the gym. So my point of view is that when we train in the studio, we only develop certain muscle groups, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And when you only rely on just certain things, you're walking on thin ice. It's like if you just have one income stream, you're walking on thin ice.
Exactly.
But when you go to the gym, for example, you build the underlying muscles. You making what is on top. If you do it right, you are helping that. You're promoting it. You're supporting it to be stronger without being seen, perhaps.
Yeah. And the other thing is that in a ballet class, you, like you said, you are just working on certain things, but turnout is actually not that natural for us, and you can't really control it. That I mean, even if you look it's in the space of a week, your first position is going to feel different every day, depending on, I don't know, the chemical balance in your body or how you're feeling emotionally that day. Yeah. And even jumping, for example, you can't engage your glutes as you would when you're parallel. Now, the logic would be, why not go into a safe space where you can do things controlled? You can decide how many repetitions you do. You can decide if you were to add weight, you can control all of that in a safe space. And whereas in a class, you're like, okay, do 5 jumps of this, 10 jumps of that. It's turned out it's maybe a bit choreographic. So the myth that you can injure yourself in the gym, or that you can, I don't know, damage your body.
Oh, really? Is that the myth? Awesome. I didn't know about that.
That's what I've heard. Yeah, but I mean, I've also heard of horror stories that happened in the studio. So
yeah.
And I just think it's a way to activate your muscles. And if you just do the right things with the right amount and you're smart about it, then it can benefit you so much in the ballet class.
I love that. Let's talk COVID. So March hits. Before we started recording, you alluded that it was a blessing for you in a way. It was a blessing for me. I would love to hear why it was a blessing for you, because it is, so many dancers don't see it as a blessing. And I believe that not only for the dance industry, but for the arts all over, this could be the start of something completely new if they're willing to see it that way.
Definitely. And I think it's the same with injuries, you know, people who go off, you can decide how you want to come out of it. And even though for me it was psychologically, it was very difficult to deal with, it was very new for me. I distinctly remember packing my suitcase and saying to my best friend, I'm going to come back stronger. This is not going to kill me. And that mindset, that initial mindset is, I think, the most important. And so during my injury, of course, it gave me a huge gift and an insight, but it didn't mean that suddenly I went back into work, suddenly back into the company life, and everything was completely different. I still had a lot of work to do. And with the years that went on, you know, you learn something new about yourself. You find a different kind of struggle and insight and whatever, you know, the whole personal growth. But you always have this environment that you're battling against. You know, you always have this competition that you're battling against, or seeing yourself in the mirror again and then having these insecurities. And it's really, you don't really have enough time to reflect on anything. And then, of course, lockdown came. So you have this, if you can imagine, this insight or this mindset, but to constantly have so many outside distractions, you never really focus in and really believe it. And I feel like it's only been since this lockdown that I really truly believed everything that I kind of wanted to change in my life, or the new beliefs that I wanted to adapt. And yeah, I guess just it's that silence. It's a silence that we had in the streets that you just suddenly realize everything becomes somehow more intense because there's nothing. And the same like at home, sitting at home and thinking, this is my career. It's been taken away from me now, but what can I do for myself to go back and be a better artist? Because, you know, you can't really improve and get stronger with Zoom home office, you know, or with the Zoom classes. So you can only become stronger as a person and ultimately then more of an artist, because also most artists have come out of like, what's the word? Hardship, and then produce the most amazing work. And I feel like dancers have that capability as well.
Oh, any kind of artist does. It is about if you allow yourself to feel it, if you're actually worthy of feeling the pain. And I personally never felt worthy of feeling even the pain. Like I stuffed it down, deep down, so far down that I'm still working on rototilling it back up to understand what actually happened over all these years. And the power in the pause is the gift I find that we received through COVID. And it's on us to see it that way or to fight against it. I see so many dancers that, you know, they find rescue in the mundane, and they're taking the class in the kitchen every day and holding classes online and asking for, you know, for money for the relief fund because they're putting on a small little production. Like, okay, well, great. Awesome. I love it. Thank you for initiative. And what is the bigger question? What is the bigger initiative? What is the bigger picture here that we're being presented? What's to learn? And we only get the answers to the questions that we ask. And if we're, not asking better questions, we're not going to receive better answers. And
Exactly.
When you talk about personal growth, because I feel that is not something that we put much intention or even worth into. We put a lot of attention and worth into what we can do in the studio, but not who we're becoming while we're growing.
Exactly, yeah.
I just want to, perhaps for somebody that is listening and wondering what that even describes or what that means, what did you do? What did you start and doing in terms of personal growth? And what does that look like now on a daily basis for you?
Well, I think that personal growth is it's a lot bigger than just saying, you're sitting down and you're asking yourself questions or you're reading books or whatever. I think it starts when you think, okay, what am I outside of the studio? Or who am I outside of the studio? Who am I when I'm not on stage? And I had to ask myself that question when going back to when I was injured, because I was like, what if that I have this chance, or I did have a big chance of not dancing again? I was like, okay, well, what's left for me in life? Because I have no other interests. I genuinely did not know what I could do with the rest of my life. And that is very scary, because then you start thinking, well, yeah, who am I? And once I allowed myself to also have other interests and explore other things and have a social life, I started to realize who I am and what I also enjoy doing. And I think this kind of idea that what would happen if this was your last day at work or dancing? What would that look like for you? And it kind of takes the pressure off to think, well, there's so many other things in the world that are so enriching that even if you do have a bad day in class, it's not the end of the world. It generally isn't. And I think once you find who you are, then you can only start the personal growth. And then you start thinking, okay, well, I love doing this, and this brings me this happiness. And I don't know, I think that's kind of just the key, really. And it just snowballs from there. Because,
I love it. You definitely know where you're at first. Yeah.
I also started doing yoga, and I felt like, I enjoy that. And the deeper, then I began to understand yoga more, and I began to understand the energies in the body and this whole chakra energy flow. And I think that just also awoke so many more questions. So I think it's just expanding your circles, really. And then the more questions you have, the more answers you'll get.
Yeah, and the more answers
just one more thing. Just coming back to having a social life. So I met a lot of people outside of the ballet world in Vienna, and I met such inspirational people from so many different areas. I mean, I have a friend who's a techno DJ, and the way he was talking about his passion for techno music really inspired me. Like, I'm not even kidding, how his drive and the way I never understood techno music. I had a very kind of weird association with it. And the way he was talking about it was so inspiring for me that the next day at work, I was like, you know what, I can achieve my dream. If this guy can start, his label in his bedroom, then I also can just become who I want to be, and express what I want on stage. I don't know. It's things like that.
Yeah. Expand your horizon, you do not have to mingle with your kind all the time in order to become better. I think the diversity is where the magic lies. And even though that's not what we're teaching in the industry, it is the magic pill, quite honestly.
No, it is. It is. Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, I also have very close friends who are also dancers, but I also know when I'm with people and they don't bring me that excitement, it's, I don't know, your vibe attracts your tribe at the end of the day. So
yes,
just go with that. You don't have to force yourself to spend time with people that aren't bringing you that good feeling or that motivation.
Beautiful. Yes. Amen to that. So before we part, my love, one question I usually ask. What is one thing you would tell your 15, 16-year-old today to either start or to stop?
I wish I could tell myself to meditate. Just chill out.
Just chill out. Don't be so wound up.
Yeah, really. Just chill out. And
I have goosebumps now.
Yeah. Just be yourself. Just go back to the little girl that you were, Go back and watch when you were 3 years old, that kind of excitement, that passion that you had, this kind of fearlessness. Definitely lost that when I was 15. Definitely had this constant fear. And it is a difficult fear to label. But yeah, I just think that just go for it. And actually a teacher, she said that to me in one meeting that I had with her. She really meant a lot to me in the lower school. And she said to me, just go for it. And I wish I really understood the meaning of that back then. But yeah. And another teacher said to me is, don't let the buggers get to you. I'll also never forget that one.
Wow. No, don't let the buggers get to you. Yeah.
Wise word.
Just go for it, whatever it is, right? Just go for it and stop judging yourself and putting weight onto what other people say about you.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Suzanne, thank you so much for this.
Oh, thank you.
I so enjoy having conversations. I just want to mention on that point, we didn't know each other before. I just reached out to you on Instagram because I liked your content and I could see that there is a different way of thinking there. And I wanted to thank you that you are finding your voice and your courage to put that out there, because, when we're holding on to things, we're actually pretty selfish because we're fearful of what other people would think.
Yeah.
So be courageous and just go for it. Remember that little girl,
I will.
All one. Yeah.
And thank you for reaching out. It's so inspiring also to speak to you, and to know that my views or opinions are not completely alien.
They're not to me.
Very good.
Thank you, my love.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. If this message resonates with you, please pass it on to someone who needs to hear this right now. And if you like what you've heard, your feedback will go a very long way. If you just take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star review, that would mean the world to me. Till next time, point at yourself to rise to all that you are capable of.